Awesome, awesome. Glad to be here and excited to share those fun, good moments with you all.
Great. Well, listen, before we get started, why don't you give us a background on you and what your current role is?
Sure. Um, I'm fortunate to be leading teams around the world at the Hershey company on marketing, innovation, digital, and e-commerce. And as you all know, Hershey is one of the loved brands around the world, and we serve consumers in 90 countries. And our primary brands, Hershey's, Reese's, and Kisses, and many more regional gems around the world. Thank you.
I think that the love of sweets is universal, right? I think you're born with it, I've heard. All right, so well, let's get to our topic. So our topic today is fueling growth by unlocking insights and unleashing creativity. And so you and I spoke before this session to prep, and you said that you have a three-pronged approach. So we're going to go into each in depth, but before we do that, maybe you could give an overview of what this approach is.
Sure. The three steps that I talked with you earlier, one is about unlocking insights. And it's about both the qualitative and the quantitative. And this is where the science and the art comes together. And second is about unleashing creativity. And through leveraging the diversity of thought, style, cultures, and experiences that we all bring to the table. And third is about inspiring teams to execute with excellence. Because we could have a great insight, a wonderful creativity, but if we can't execute with excellence, everything goes to naught. So this three-pronged approach is what we all marketers do, and we have instilled into our Hershey organization so that we can drive brand awareness, increase household penetration, and market share.
Yeah. So I think when we spoke, I was really fascinated by each section of that journey that you undertake. Your international CMO, there's so many, I mean, every country has different cultures and different preferences. And I think everyone's going to find this conversation as fascinating as I did to learn about the nuances. Well, let's talk about unlocking insights. So, there were, two parts of that, like how your team goes about getting those insights, and then also the insights you found. So maybe you could share with us some of how your special secrets of how you get insights into your consumer behavior and what they want from you.
Sure. As most all of us marketers, we are very familiar with the traditional methodologies, focus groups, the ethnographies to get the qualitative data, and of course, the quantitative research that we all perform day in and day out. With the pandemic, as new trends evolved, it had been challenging for us to get face to face with the consumer and uncover the changing consumer patterns that are happening around us. And we leverage two tools. One, of course, social listening that you heard about earlier during the day on an ongoing basis. And second is to conduct proactive social listening through leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. And both of these techniques were very helpful to uncover insights that allowed us to identify new growth platforms, innovation, as well as be very targeted in our media approach.
I think what's interesting about that, though, when you say, AI and machine learning, it sounds so like hygienic, but the insights that you uncovered are so core to our daily life. So, like, what did you see? I remember you said, the story of like how people use cocoa differently for different recipes in different countries. Because the very scientific approach gives you a very kind of cultural, emotional insight.
Yes, very well said. And that's where the science and the art comes to play, right? So the science is all of the AI, the machine learning, the data that we are tracking, the keywords that we are tracking. But the art is all about observing what is the unsaid, the challenges, the emotions that consumers are going through when they are doing their daily tasks that they even don't know about during those particular occasions. So, for example, during the pandemic, we observed, as you all know, a huge rise in baking. And around the world, this was a consistent pattern, whether it be Canada, India, Mexico, that we participate in. And this baking trend was huge, but what we uncovered using these techniques was how it was different by our consumer cohorts. So there was this advanced set of bakers who were proud about using these advanced recipes and exhibiting their prowess on social media. And it was a form of their identity, and it is their pride and joy. And then there was this consumer segment, the moms with their kids, where it was all about keeping their kids busy. So it was kid-friendly recipes about how do you entertain them. It was the mess that was associated with it, the cleanup afterwards, but also the joy that she sees when the kid comes with, oh, I made this cookie just for you. So those little moments of joy that the mom has and the connection that she builds with her kids, and these become treasured memories. And there are this other set of bakers who are completely new to baking and who are looking to Hershey to provide them with recipes. And these are these single working households, and they just want to relieve themselves of stress or boredom. And this was their way of experiencing it. So, and this was a pattern that was common across markets, whether it be Canada, Mexico, or India. However, what we noticed was there was also subtle differences. When we saw these recipes, you would see a mole in Mexico, or you would see a chocolate kulfi from India, which is essentially an ice cream. And of course, there's this cookie in Canada. But there was a similarity about how these consumer cohorts were going about baking, but there were some nuances that we customized. So I tell my team that every country wants to say, okay, I'm special, but we want to celebrate the similarities while customizing for the local nuances.
I'm taking notes for my future learning. You're fascinating to me. Okay, so, and even you were saying like, you know, the ways that the rituals of how people eat, like how they take off the wrapper, where they store it. Like there's so many nuances that are not, you're right, not necessarily just cultural, just individual. Like I remember when I went to college and my roommate had all these different things and that her mom did differently from how we did, and you kind of learn. So when you have now you have like, you know, all these insights in the pandemic world. How do you actually take that data, like you were saying, and then execute it in campaigns? I mean, it feels like you've quite a big job of localizing it into all these countries. So I love your you know, saying like what is common there. I'm sure that helps with the execution, but like tell us about some of the creativity that came from all of these insights you got.
Sure. And maybe before I give this example, let me set some context on the insight that went around it.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly when you mentioned the wrapper. So the context around this insight was all about how to take a generic insight and make it ownable to our brand. And that had to be meaningful to the consumer, but also ownable and relevant across markets. So one of the key insights that we uncovered through social listening was for the Reese's brand, that there were various ways of eating a Reese's cup. And different consumers, as you said, they were all individual experiences. And, you know, for me, it was all about, you know, taking the wrapper slowly, nibbling, it around the edges, and then coming to the center and relishing it. And towards the end, there will be a sticky little piece and that you want to lick. So, and there were many consumers like that. For some, it was stacking up all of the Reese's and playing a game with it. Or for some, it was creating a sandwich with something else. And for some, it was, chilling the Reese's cup into the refrigerator. And each experience was, all tied to the Reese's brand and was very individual, but it was a ritual that they went about unknowingly and that we wanted to leverage. And this is the data that we were able to uncover through the social listening. And we wanted to harness that insight and tie it to a marketing campaign. And thereby, what we did is we created a campaign called I Love Reese's Day, where we asked consumers all the various ways by which they would eat Reese's. And that created a lot of user-generated content that we were able to unleash and have a sustainable communication that was engaging to the consumer, meaningful and relevant to the brand, and elevated our brand power.
And I'm sure it resonates even more when they see like, wow, they know me. That's how I eat the Reese's. You're making my mouth water, by the way. I love like peanut butter and chocolate together so much. Well, when you so you had those insights, like how did you rally the team around them and then localize it? You were saying like the 20 way to eat Reese's, like, could you, was it different? Was the commercial different in Mexico versus India, or the ads that you were putting out there?
So what we did was the insight was the same, and we had one common big idea across markets. So the key visual was the same, the brand idea was the same, and what was different was depending on the brand penetration in each market, the objective was different, right? So in one market, it would be driving loyalty. In others, it would be driving trial. Therefore, the tactics were different. But the big idea was the same. And we all rallied behind the visual identity. So when you see Reese's, you're going to see this orange, the big screaming orange, the wrapper, the I Love Reese's Day campaign around the world. You would see how do you Reese's as a key message that was common across. But in UK, you might see a sampling truck. In Canada, you might see a Reese's Loyalist website. But the tactics were different, but the campaign was the same. And what that did was to empower the teams around the key initiative and gave them some ownership, right? So each team was able to customize the campaign to their local needs, and the team owned it. And this is how they got passionate, and your ability to execute with excellence. That's what it's all about. When they own it, they feel empowered, they are held accountable for it, and they're able to deliver against the program.
Right, because I think that all humans want to have some independence in they feeling a sense of control in what they're accomplishing. So, but also you trusting that your local teams know that market and know the needs in that market and know how to execute it. I actually am just remembering, I feel like I just saw a Reese's commercial in the past week that was a pun on like, are we listening to you? Like the privacy wars right now. And I thought that was really, really like, it was irreverent. It spoke to me, obviously, because I work in media and I'm very aware of it, but it was also just like, I was like, wow, they're going there. That's interesting. No fear to like catch the zeitgeist of what's happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all coming up down the pike, right? With all of the privacy challenges. And we are cognizant of it, and we want to go head on with it, right? We want to acknowledge it. It is all about being transparent and driving that authenticity and being real about the conversations that are happening out there. And when we observed that, and we know, or we have realized that with the Gen Zs, with the millennials, having that authenticity is key. And we as a Hershey company have rallied behind it. Whether it was the campaign that we had with the All Trees Are Beautiful around the Reese's, or recently when we created a debate around the Reese's sticky cup, which was whether it's sticky or clean. It is all about being authentic and acknowledge the challenges that we had. So for example, recently there was a challenge in the sense that we were social listening, and we noticed LeBron James mentioning on social media that, hey, the sticky portion of the Reese's cup looks like my bald head. And we took advantage of that, right? And we observed the social commentary that was coming around the sticky cup. And what we saw that was, it was 50% loved the stickiness on the bottom of the wrapper, and 50% loved the clean cup. So we just said, why don't we create a campaign just around that, and acknowledge the issue, and created a social debate about, do you like it clean or do you like it sticky? And that's why the team in Canada, kudos to them on being real, acknowledging this, and going about it in an authentic manner, true to what the consumers are looking for and believe in, but also standing by the brand.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, when was that just like happened organically that LeBron said it, and so you got to get star power without paying for star power?
Yeah, I mean, it was through the social listening, right? So, and that is what I mentioned by earlier about when we are identifying insights, it's monitoring the social media for those events that happen. The good news is Reese's is the #1 brand, and we have a significant household penetration, and consumers love it. There's a lot of consumption already going on in certain key markets like Canada and the US. And that we could leverage it across markets given the star power, and with the similar pattern that it was relevant across consumers. It was not just with the celebrity, but it was something that was resonating with all consumers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, well, that brings me to UGC, user generated content. And I'd love to get some of your thoughts on it, why it's a powerful tool. It's interesting because I remember in the early days, like, a couple decades ago, the UGC brands were sending cease and desist about people creating fan art, and everyone was so scared, like, are you going to take my brand and spoil it? Obviously we've done a complete 180 now as marketers and how we feel about UGC, but I know it's one of your favorite kind of creative tools, so tell us about how you work with that.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites because it's a great way to be authentic with the consumer as well as engage the consumer. And particularly when you're targeting the Gen Zs and the millennials, this is the perfect approach. And UGC we have used for a variety of campaigns through last year and this year. And I'll give the example of baking. With the baking example, I mean, the power of recipes is enormous. And we could have gone down the road of, and we did for a while, did create a lot of recipes with product shots, spend a lot of money to get the perfect imagery. We spend days photo shooting, various recipes and around the world and making it custom for various markets. But what we realized during the pandemic was, the consumers were posting videos and recipes galore in numerous ways. How can we harness that and pool all of those together, curate them and release it back to the society. And as a result, consumers connected more and they believed more in those recipes because we sent out a campaign looking for recipes from consumers, and the response was absolutely immense. I mean, it was pouring in and we just couldn't manage it. And if you would ask, were the photographs perfect? Was the packaging perfect? It was all crumpled probably. I would earlier in my days looking for the visual identity system as marketers, I would have said like, okay, let's get the perfect packaging shot angled this way. Let's get the product this way, etc. But that's not what happens in real life. It's with the kitchen in the background, kids running around. You would have, something come out of a cupboard, but those were real. The voice was real. And that's what connected with consumers. And we saw that our likes or the engagement with the recipes went out the roof with these kind of campaigns.
I think that's it's really interesting. And I mean, I'm Gen X, but I feel the same way as I think millennials and Gen Z, because it makes me feel better when I see ads that are more real, because then you don't have to feel like if somebody's, cooking and their kitchen's like messy and they've got, like we were talking, like some clean as you go, some clean at the end. And it's just, you see yourself and then, you're not like, oh my God, I'm not this perfect mom with a sparkling kitchen. You see yourself and it gives, I think it helps self-esteem. I think it's related self-esteem and marketing. So you know what, I'm just going to pepper in, usually we do Q&A at the end, but it is coming in. I think some of it is just like related to what you're talking about. Somebody asked, what is the most, and I don't know if you have a particular favorite, the most interesting consumer insight you found? Like, was there anything surprising that you didn't know before? Was it like, this consumer know what's going on so well that it wasn't that surprising?
Sure, that's a great question. And, there are a lot of insights, that you say we wouldn't know before. But the example that I can give you about was related to a new product that we launched. So I could share that insight. When consumers, typically were stressed, and this was even before the pandemic happened, one of the learnings or the insights that we got was when people are stressed, especially in the evenings, in the evenings, they would go to an ice cream, watch TV and binge on an ice cream. I remember sitting with an ice cream cup and spooning it through, right? And then what we observed was consumers same experience during the day when they are stressed up or busy with their work. And they wanted something that was easy and convenient. But the challenge was, okay, I had to go to the refrigerator when I'm in the office. I had to take the ice cream cone, put it in the refrigerator. It was messy. I need to find a spoon. And what if I don't eat up the whole thing? I have to keep it back. So it was a whole experience problem. Thereby came an idea for us was to launch the same ice cream experience in a convenient manner in a chocolate bar. And there came by the product of Ice Cream Shop chocolate bar. So the same cooling sensation, the rich, creamy, indulgent experience that you would have in an ice cream that you can have any time of the day in a chocolate bar. It's convenient. You can wrap it up, fold it up. You can eat the whole thing if you want. And that uplifts you. And we had it in the same ice cream flavors, birthday cake, strawberry, waffles and cone, and mint chocolate chip. And this we were able to launch in 14 countries around the world. And this is where I say, when I said earlier about celebrating similarities of the insight around the world, this is what we were able to do. But at the same time, we customize certain flavors to take into account the local tastes and needs. We customize the pack and design slightly, and thereby we got a common theme, a common product, and most importantly, I'm super proud of the teams who were able to launch it in just 10 months which is super speed, high speed for us, and across multiple countries. And it's selling really well. And it's one of the top sellers in our organization.
Interesting. I mean, how long did it take the scientists to craft an ingredient, like something that kind of had, echoed ice cream, but didn't need to be in the freezer?
Yeah, so kudos to our R&D and technical team here, as well as the supply chain partners, the regulatory partners, because in order to get from idea to launch in 10 months, and there was a lot of parallel pathing and sequencing, right? So it's not only uncovering the insight and the idea and the packaging, to your point about identifying the ingredients, we had to make sure that the trends, all the ingredients that were used were approved through the regulatory bodies around the world. There's a lot of science that goes behind it. At the end of the day, it's cool to see, oh, this is a chocolate, that should be easy. But there's a lot of science and technicality that goes behind it. And thanks to all the teams who were able to develop in just 10 months and launch it across markets.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's, I'm going to have to go find that product. I think my kids would like it in their lunch boxes. Well, let's, talk about like sales impact, right? So really at the end of the day, we're here to drive conversion and sales. So like what, all of these campaigns that you ran, all of these things that you did, the creative, the localization, what were the results?
Sure. What done is our brands is not just about driving awareness and engagement. It's also about driving consideration and purchase. So having the complete omni-channel experience is what we have been advocating. So for example, with the I Love Reese's campaign, what we have been able to do is integrate this social digital campaign all the way through to our customers, to Amazon.com, to Walmart.com, etc. Thereby, not only driving awareness and engagement, but also making sure that we are getting the ratings and reviews on those platforms, as well as driving a purchase on those platforms. And with our campaign, when we said, like, how do you resist, and gained consumer feedback on the various ways that people eat Reese's, and we uncovered more than 20 Reese's ways of eating Reese's, we integrated it to those platforms. And what happened was, during just a couple of weeks activation, in UK, we went from number 2000 rank to number 1 rank on Amazon platform, not just on confectionery, but all of grocery. So, and in Canada, we were always number 1 on not only on confectionery, but also on grocery. And we were able to get 8 times the number of users to our D2C site in Brazil in just 1 day. So it's not just about brand building events, it is about growth driving initiatives. And that's why we've put together in this one business unit, marketing that drives the business. And as you said earlier, it's brand marketing and performance marketing coming together.
Yeah, I think that that's a big buzz thing happening right now, is this mash of performance and brand marketing. And I also think that part of why it's really coming to the fore right now is the pandemic changing behaviors of how people, like e-commerce, the acceleration of e-commerce and all of those things. Like what were some, I mean, I don't know, I'm interested to see like how you had to innovate for the pandemic. And do you think that that's related to this like this mashup of performance and brand marketing happening?
Sure. Yes, with the mashup of brand marketing and performance marketing, I would say that irrespective of the pandemic, that was bound to happen, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are serving the consumer at any point of their consumer journey, whether they're looking for stuff or they're finding the product or purchasing the product. And we know that that is also shrinking, right? Typically, we would say, okay, consumers go on google.com and search for the product, and then we want to engage with them and drive them to a platform. But with most consumers already going on to amazon.com and searching for product, or walmart.com directly and searching for it, if that becomes the source of truth, then we have to be where consumers are searching for the product. So it eventually would shrink based on where the consumer or the shopper is going. So what we at Hershey are doing is an integrated and a holistic way of approaching marketing, where we are looking at all areas within the consumer journey, the awareness, the engagement, the consideration, the purchase, and looking at it holistically, not just purely from a marketing perspective, but also from a sales perspective, from a media perspective, and integrating it all together. And that is where this cross-functional collaboration comes to play. And with the pandemic, to your point, we have been even more engaged. Decision-making has been faster. Collaboration, surprisingly, online has been faster and more efficient. And we have been able to move things much more faster than I believe we would have done before.
Interesting. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that too. Somehow Zooming can be really efficient. Email and not flying places, waiting until you're going to meet somebody till you do your business trip in 2 weeks. Everything's sort of just happening now. And of course, we're all just chained to our kind of home office. So maybe that's making everyone work faster. So kind of pivoting a little bit, we spoke during our call about empowering women globally. I think that's, it's a subject that's really important to my company as well. It's one of our core values. So you have a female CEO, a female CGO. How do you, what are some things that you've done to give back to women?
Absolutely. And this is a topic is very close to my heart. Having grown up in India, coming over here, we've all gone through those challenges, and I'm fortunate to be working in a company with great female leaders and who believe in diversity and investing in diversity, not just about gender, but across all aspects, right? It's about inclusion and making sure that all voices are heard, supported, and feel empowered. And particularly, we have at Hershey, we have a great history with the Milton Hershey School. We are supporting students who could not have had the opportunity to study through the Milton Hershey School. In addition, recently, I'm so proud to launch a campaign which originated in Brazil, in our Brazil team. And it was all about making the invisible women visible. And the campaign is called the She Campaign. And for context, none of us realized, Hershey is there as a name, but little did we realize until the agency pointed to us, it's like, did you know that we have the her and the she in the bar in the name of our company? And what a way to celebrate and kick off a campaign, and not just playing with those words, and it is going beyond that. And what we took it to the next level to say, we wanted to support those women who are accomplishing a lot of great things, but are not being celebrated. Those artists who are painting with wonderful paintings in Brazil, those social entrepreneurs who are taking care of kids and are supporting kids literacy in India, those women who are advocating for pets, those people who are supporting, against early girls' marriage, etc. in India. So supporting those women who are championing, who are not as well known as they would have been. And there are so many moms, kids, girls who are doing great things that we wanted to make them visible. And thereby, we even stretched ourselves to put those paintings and those artists, those women's visuals on the pack and celebrating them with custom packs and activating them through social campaigns. And it was a challenge, getting through the visual identity system. People would say like, oh my God, this does not look like a Hershey bar anymore. You're highlighting the her and you are having the visual of a local artist or a local social entrepreneur. Or you're highlighting the she and you're highlighting their visual. So to us, it was about empowering women, celebrating women. And we took a leap and we took that stand to support women. And we are fortunate to have great results with this campaign, and also got the Ad Age Award from Brazil. So kudos to the Brazil team for leading this and for all the other teams to lifting and reapplying it. So again, I say that theme is common. We wanted to celebrate that around the world. So we took the theme from Brazil and implemented in Mexico, US, as well as in India, and celebrated women. Yep.
Wow, are we already done? I have like a ton of Q&A and I'm not even done with all of my questions.
We got 2 minutes. So if you have one last question, go for it.
All right, you know what? Let's see. I feel like I got to give one to the audience. Okay, so given how fast the marketing discipline evolves and how often new technology or platforms emerge, how do you account for these emerging opportunities when planning your media?
Good question. And one is we're always on the lookout for these emerging new platforms that are coming up. And we believe in the agility that we have. And there is one thing about having reserved funding to take into account for those. And so I tell my teams around the world, save around 20% to invest in those new things that we would not have known. So take into account for those surprises, right? Surprises or good opportunities. The second is about how do you unleash that agility across the teams? And it's not just dollars in reserve, it's also the people resources. How do you prioritize or reprioritize your team's work in order to be able to commit to implementing these new platforms? Because it's not easy to take a new platform, learn it, and do it well in such a short time. And it takes commitment and it takes agile people who can execute it well. So those two aspects, having that investment in dollar resources saved up, as well as people time commitment to enable it. And the good news is we have